Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel. And in this video, I'm just going to do a quick little fantasy recap of the NFL season opener, which was on Thursday night, September 9th, between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. Fantasy aside, this was a really exciting game. It went down to the wire, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ended up winning 31-29 over the Cowboys. It was a classic Tom Brady-led final drive with less than 2 minutes left, got down to field goal position just after the Cowboys did the same thing and kicked the field goal. It was a really good game. But with that being said, I think we're ready to just jump into the recap here. So I'm going to start with the quarterbacks. Dak Prescott and Tom Brady both had fantastic games. Dak Prescott coming back from that injury where he missed a lot of time last year. He looked really good. He looked confident throwing the ball. He was standing in the pocket. Even when the rush was coming, he was standing in there confident, making really good throws. And he was actually moving around a little bit too, so the mobility was there. He didn't look like scared. He looked very confident. So that was really good to see. There were a couple bad throws just in the first half that I noticed. There was one early in the game where it was a comeback route to CeeDee Lamb on the sideline. It was a little short. There was an almost interception in the red zone where he threw it over the middle and it almost got picked off. And then there was a miscommunication, I think it was with CeeDee Lamb as well, where he threw it into the end zone, and that was another pass that could have been intercepted. But those are just a few passes I noticed, so it wasn't like a perfect game for him. But he still put up 403 yards, 3 touchdowns on 42 of 58 passing. And his one interception was a deflection. He actually threw a really nice pass to CeeDee Lamb over the middle, and it hit him in the hands. He kind of dropped it, popped it up, and that got picked off. But for fantasy, I mean, this was an amazing game. If you started Dak Prescott, you're happy. And I think for the rest of the season, if there were any injury concerns, I think those should be gone. Obviously, he could still get hurt again, but I'm just talking about the lingering effects of the injury that he had. It looks like he's past that for the most part. Tom Brady, I believe he's 44 now. Every year we go into the season, is the age going to catch up to him? It appears not, at least not yet. He was 32 of 50, 379 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a couple interceptions. It's sort of like Dak Prescott. His 2 interceptions were also not really on him. One of them was a screen pass to Leonard Fournette that he dropped. And, like, it was literally like right to him. He just popped it up, and the defender was right there to intercept it. So that should have not been an interception. And then the other interception, it was at the end of the first half, and he just chucked up a Hail Mary to the end zone, and it got picked off by the Cowboys. So it is what it is. So none of those were really his fault. But Tom looks really great for age 44. Going into the season, I kind of liked Antonio Brown as a sleeper because I knew that they had a great rapport. But it was kind of ridiculous how good that they were playing together on Thursday night. You can see his box score right here, 5-1-21 and a touchdown. His receiving core of Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Gronk. It's really elite. Like that's one of the best receiving cores in the league, if not the best. And he is Tom Brady. That is still elite enough to get him the ball all over the field. He can take advantage of their strengths. And he should be a really solid fantasy quarterback this season. Same with Dak Prescott. Tom Brady doesn't offer a lot of rushing upside, obviously, so he probably won't be like the #1 quarterback unless he puts up more games like this. But yeah, that's his only downside, obviously, as you guys know, probably, is that he's not really a rusher at all. But even that, sometimes he does get the quarterback sneak on the 1 yard line that gets him a little rushing touchdown. But yeah, he should be a locked and loaded quarterback 1 for you guys. And speaking of that receiving core, I'm just going to kind of talk about the receivers in this game. I get the feeling that the receiving core, it might be kind of hard to predict the distribution of points week to week because they have so many options there. Tom Brady doesn't have to force the ball to anyone. On this game in particular, Antonio Brown went crazy, 5 catches, 121, and a touchdown. Chris Godwin, 9 for 105 and a touchdown. Gronk came through with a big game, 8 for 90 and 2 touchdowns. And then after that, nothing really of note. I thought Giovanni Bernard would be a little bit more involved, honestly, out of the backfield as like a pass catching option, like a third down back. I played him in a FanDuel lineup. It was like the 2 quarterbacks, Antonio Brown, Amari Cooper as my team captain. So it was an insane lineup. And then I have Giovanni Bernard. I could have afforded to put Gronk in there. And I don't know if I would have won the whole tournament, but going into the 4th quarter, my lineup was perfect other than Giovanni Bernard. And if I would have had Gronk in there, I would have been in first place. So I might have been able to win or tie for first in the whole tournament and win like $1,000 or something, or thousands. But I ended up winning like $9 and it was a $5 entry. So that was kind of annoying. But yeah, Mike Evans obviously did not have a very good game. 3 of 24. He's going to have games like this. I feel like with Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin there, they don't need to force Mike Evans the ball as much in between the 20s. I think he might be a little bit touchdown dependent this year. Obviously, he will have games where he has more than 24 yards. To me, he's the type of receiver where he's probably going to finish around 1,000 yards exactly, not too much more than that. And hopefully he'll have more games where he gets in the end zone. So taking a look at the targets here for that game, Chris Godwin had 14, Antonio Brown had 7, Mike Evans had 6. Obviously Chris Godwin was the target leader for the Buccaneers. Antonio Brown had 7 targets and he did a lot with them. I honestly think there might be games in the future where Antonio Brown has more targets because I think Tom Brady really likes throwing him the ball. And Mike Evans only 6 targets. Again, between the 20s, I think he'll have games where he is more heavily targeted, but this is just a sign that, week to week, Mike Evans, if he's not getting in the end zone, he might bust for you. So that's kind of unfortunate. But then talking about the Cowboys receiving core, it's really all about Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. This receiving core is a little bit more easy to predict. Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are both, the top receiving options there, obviously. And Amari Cooper, 13 receptions, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, 7 receptions, 104 yards, and 1 touchdown. You can look at the targets here. Amari Cooper had 16 targets. CeeDee Lamb had 15. So they were both heavily targeted in this game. And there's really not much to say. They're both amazing. CeeDee Lamb is making that year 2 jump, it looks like. Amari Cooper, he's one of my favorite players to usually draft in fantasy. I don't have him in any leagues this year, but this could end up being his best season with his offense if Dak stays healthy. It looked like last year that was going to be the case where, they were both going to go nuclear, but Dak Prescott got hurt. But this year, now that he's back, I think he can support both of these guys, and they could both be wide receiver ones. There was some talk of both of them being top 12 wide receivers this season. I think that's definitely possible with this offense and how much they're going to pass the ball. And if not, they'll probably both be top 15 minimum. There's really not much more to say about the Cowboys receivers. It's pretty much Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup, I mean, how many targets did he have? He had 7, so he'll be a little bit involved. But remember, Dak threw the ball 58 times. In games where they're not throwing the ball almost 60 times, Michael Gallup might be someone that might need to get in the end zone or have a big play to be relevant for fantasy. But that's the Cowboys receiving core of the Bucs. It's a little more crowded. I loved Antonio Brown coming into the season as a sleeper, and it looks like that call paid off. And then talking about the tight ends, Rob Gronkowski, he was 8 of 90 for 2 touchdowns. He had 8 targets. I obviously wouldn't expect him to have this good of a game. The Bucs threw the ball 50 times, but they might have to throw the ball a lot this season based on how the running game looked with Jones and Fournette. Yeah, this was a great game for Gronk. This just shows that tight end, he's a viable tight end play. He can get in the end zone. Tom Brady and him, kind of like Antonio Brown, they just have a good rapport. He looks for him. He can get him the ball in the end zone. I don't expect Gronk to have this many yards most week, but you have to remember, tight end is a very weak position if you don't have one of those top guys. So Gronk is not a bad option, especially if you drafted him late or if he's on your waiver wire. You can throw him in there, and there will be weeks where he probably doesn't do much, but there will also be weeks when he catches a touchdown or 2, and if the yardage is there as well, then it'll be a good play that week. So that's kind of my opinion on him. I think the receivers will kind of get the majority of the targets, but Gronk is someone at a weak position such as tight end. He's someone that is viable in my opinion. That's enough of the receiving core. Now to talk about the running backs here. So with the Buccaneers and the Cowboys, it was a little ugly. This was definitely a pass-heavy game. Let's actually start with the Cowboys. This is probably what you kind of want to hear about more. Ezekiel Elliott, 11 carries, 33 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also was 2 of 6 receiving. Tony Pollard, 3 rushes, 14 yards, and he had 4 catches for 29 yards. So starting with Ezekiel Elliott, his 2 catches were on his 2 targets, I believe. He had 2 targets, as it says right here. 2 targets, 2 catches. And if you guys remember last season, the 2020 season, the Tampa Bay Bucs had a phenomenal run defense. Really nobody could run on them. This was the norm to see running backs kind of eaten alive. And I feel like the Cowboys at some point were just like, let's kind of get away from the running game and just attack them through the passing game. So I think for the rest of the season, when your guys are coming up against the Buccaneers, your running backs, just be careful about playing them. I think the Bucs have the Atlanta Falcons next week. So if you have Mike Davis on your team, you might want to look to better options. Obviously, if you don't have anyone else on your team to play, you'll have to play him. Hope he gets in the end zone. But the Tampa Bay Bucs run defense appears to be back. They brought all their starters back on their whole team, so it makes sense that their run defense will be good again. And yeah, Mike Davis might be someone I try to get away from next week for the Atlanta Falcons. if I have better options, because their rush defense is incredible. But yeah, Zeke, not his best game, obviously. There's going to be a lot of people disappointed. And I think this is something you could take advantage of. The Ezekiel Elliott manager in your league might be looking to sell him on the cheap after this game. He might be overreacting a little bit. I don't expect Ezekiel Elliott to have this bad of a game most weeks. Obviously, he was a first-round pick for a reason, an early first-round pick. You have to wonder how often the Cowboys are going to get away from the running game, because with Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb, if they decide to throw the ball, they are more than capable of doing it. And it was just kind of surprising, though, even with that being said, to see Ezekiel Elliott not more involved. And Tony Pollard was definitely somewhat involved in this game. He had 4 catches as well and 4 targets. So that's just something to monitor. It's not ideal, but I think he's still going to be a really, really good running back. Probably not a top 3 type of running back, just because of the passing potential in this offense. But he's someone where if a manager in your league is looking to sell him for really, really cheap, I would probably take advantage. And then talking about the Buccaneers running backs, it was equally ugly. Leonard Fournette, 9 for 32. Ronald Jones, 4 for 14. Ronald Jones had a fumble early, and if you know anything about Bruce Arians, he's not messing with that. So after that fumble, I don't think Ronald Jones played another snap after that. Leonard Fournette, he carried the load, so to speak, but he only had 9 carries. So again, you also have to consider that while the running backs didn't do very well in this game, this was obviously just a pass-heavy game. It was just a passing game script. It was just a high-scoring aerial attack for both teams. So there will probably be games where they run the ball a little bit more, but honestly, I think Brady and this receiving core are going to carry the team most weeks, because they just have the capability of doing it, and they're just explosive. And I thought Giovanni Bernard would be a little bit more involved. Like I said, he kind of in the second half, I think it was, he got a little involved, a couple catches in there. So we'll see how that plays out for the rest of the season. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the running backs, honestly. Oh yeah, and then finally, the Cowboys tight ends. Blake Jarwin, he missed a lot of time. Did he miss the whole season? I think he missed the whole season last year. But he came back 3 for 20. Dalton Schultz, 6 of 45. So they both got reps in at tight end. They might sort of both cannibalize each other throughout the season. We'll have to see as the season progresses if Blake Jarwin gets more involved, or if it continues to be sort of a split with the receptions. But right now, unless you're in a really deep league, neither is probably super relevant. Maybe in a dynasty league, but that's probably it. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole recap of this game. Overall, just to kind of summarize everything, both passing offenses I love. Dak and Tom Brady, amazing quarterback ones. With the receiving core, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, I think they could both finish as top 12 wide receiver ones this season. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I like the receiving core as well, but it's a little more crowded. The Cowboys really have 2 targets that they'll probably throw the ball to most often. The Buccaneers have 4 with AB, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Rob Gronkowski. So while I think both passing offenses will be elite, the Bucs receiving distribution might be more hard to predict. You can always throw Gronk in there. Any given week, he might get in the end zone. I think he's a viable play. And then the running game, I think, will be a little inconsistent for the Buccaneers. I mean, it was bad. It was ugly. And they might just go to the passing game most weeks. And then one of my biggest takeaways as well is be careful when your running backs go up against the Buccaneers, because even a guy like Ezekiel Elliott struggled in this game. He actually, I was listening to the game, watching the game live, watching the entire game, and I was hearing a lot about how Ezekiel Elliott looked good in pass protection. So it's not like he had a bad game NFL-wise, but just for fantasy, be wary of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I hope you guys watched this game because it was a really good game, and if not, I encourage you to watch more football, not just watch the box score, because when a game like this is on, you don't want to miss it. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more fantasy football content. And I'll see you guys later. Peace out.